The story starts on a dark and stormy night in an old Chinese house. A group of men in black robes stood quietly in a line. One of them asked if anyone was there. The rain had formed puddles, and outside, a dirty child, soaked from the rain, looked at the men in black robes. Their stillness was creepy. Among them, a man with red eyes looked closely at the boy, wondering how he could be living in the empty martial academy. He called the boy a young warrior and politely asked if they could stay there for the night to get out of the rain. The boy watched them closely, curious about who they were. He was surprised they spoke so nicely, especially since he was just a kid. He thought they might see him as a young caretaker of the closed academy. Wanting to be polite, he greeted them back and figured they probably weren't bad people. He said he had been living in the empty academy for a few years and told them they could stay wherever they wanted. But he pointed to the pavilion where he stayed and asked them not to use it. The men thanked the young warrior for his kindness. Their leader told everyone to avoid the boys' pavilion and find shelter somewhere else. He asked if they understood, and they all said yes. They went to find their spots. The boy read the word on their robes. It said Tang. He wondered if they were from the same clan. He was curious about what kind of people they were, but he had other things to do. He went into his pavilion. He was busy because it was time for the kids' dinner. The serious mood changed as the boy looked happy. He happily called everyone to eat. There was a big pot. He cheerfully lifted the lid, revealing a small, brown, cricket-like insect inside. The boy remarked that he was almost late and these insects must be starving. He then opened another pot. Inside was a charming, large spider known as the black earth tiger, a tarantula native to Hainan, China. It's a big species growing up to 20 cm with unique stripes that resemble a black tiger. With a chopstick, he picked up an insect to feed Black. As he fed him, he expressed his gratitude for Black's presence, saying he couldn't imagine surviving without these creatures. Black eagerly munched on the insect. The boy was delighted with Black's reaction. He was amazed that this spider, once the size of a fingernail, had already shed its shell twice and grown significantly. He was thrilled. After Black had eaten, the boy opened a drawer. Inside was an orange lizard with white stripes. It was a Baolang cave gecko, another native species known for its striped body and tail. The boy mentioned how difficult it was to get one in his past life because he had no money. But now he could find them everywhere outside. His life was full of joy watching them. As he fed the gecko, it bit him. He yelled and shook his fingers to dislodge it, but it held on tightly. This moment reminded him of his past. Before ending up in this body, he was a streamer with a huge following of 1 million subscribers. He was a professional biologist known as Spicy Fabry, focusing on venomous insects and animals. The trouble began during a live broadcast celebrating his 1 million subscribers, featuring the 10 most dangerous vipers in the world. The most dangerous among them, the black mamba, was seen as the most aggressive, and his trip to Africa to find it led to his demise. He explained to his viewers that he didn't have it yet, and finding it was quite challenging. He decided to take a break and planned to search for it again. His viewers assured him they would wait. He was exhausted and couldn't locate it. In the chat, viewers were worried that the black mamba might be in his house and could bite him. The elusive snake, which he had searched for tirelessly, was actually curled up on top of his refrigerator. During the live stream, it bit him swiftly, and just like that, our boy died. Now back to the present, he frowned, thinking about how it happened after all his hard work. Meanwhile, an elderly man in a black robe stood outside his pavilion door. He knocked and called for the young warrior. The boy opened the door and asked if there was anything wrong. The man expressed his gratitude for the shelter from the rain. He invited the boy to join them for dinner, mentioning they had caught a deer. The boy was thrilled to hear this. He loved meat. Until now, the only meat he had eaten was from snakes and lizards. He gladly accepted the invitation and joined the others. They had set up a bonfire. Everyone gathered around, watching the deer cook. The elder noticed the boy drooling at the sight and mentioned that the deer would take some time to be ready. In the meantime, he asked if he could ask a few questions. The boy felt a bit embarrassed for staring too long but agreed to answer. The elder asked if the boy lived alone and how old he was. The boy wasn't sure if he was 14 or 15. He decided to make up a story that he had hit his head as a child and didn't remember much. When asked if he stayed there by himself, he said yes, explaining he had no special talent. He just caught snakes and sold their skins to get by. The elder was surprised he did such a risky thing. The boy replied that he was used to it. Someone brought over some cooked meat so they could eat first. An old man commented that the young warrior must be hungry. The boy thanked the elder. He mentioned it had been a long time since he had any meat. As he bit into it, he looked genuinely happy. In his mind, he thought, "This is happiness." The older men watched him with smiles. They asked the boy to listen while he ate. The elder explained they were searching for something and asked if he had seen anything unusual. The elder hesitated about sharing more. The white-haired elder suggested to the patriarch that, since they owed the young warrior, it might be fine to tell him. Besides, the boy probably wouldn't understand, and living alone, he wouldn't spread the word. The patriarch agreed with his father and began to explain. They were looking for a centipede with a blue spot on its body. The boy was taken aback by this. They called it the blue spot centipede. It was large, so they thought the boy might have come across it. He asked how big it was. The patriarch said that if it were an adult, it could easily swallow someone the boy's size. The boy went pale at the idea of such a gigantic centipede. He started to question his assumption that he had just traveled back a few hundred years. Maybe he was in another world altogether. The white-haired man reassured him not to worry as they were close to catching it. The boy wondered if they intended to catch and raise it. The elders were puzzled by the idea of raising it. The white-haired elder was entertained and burst into laughter. They found the notion of raising a blue spot centipede amusing. The patriarch remarked on how funny the young warrior was. The white-haired elder clarified that raising it was impossible. They intended to use it for medicine. This confused the boy, who thought they might be traders, but now wondered if they were involved in something illicit. He asked how centipedes could be medicinal. The white-haired man explained that his granddaughter was gravely ill, and the centipede's inner core was the only thing that could save her, so they were determined to find it. The boy was trying to piece everything together, and the patriarch confirmed his thoughts. The white-haired elder's granddaughter was indeed his daughter. To the boy, it seemed like they were willing to try anything to help her, given her critical condition. Though he doubted centipedes could be used as medicine, he understood the lengths parents would go for their children. Feeling sympathy for both the girl and the centipede, and grateful for the meal the men provided, he decided to offer his help. He began speaking about the centipede, prompting the patriarch to ask if he had seen it. He replied no, but mentioned that while he might not know exactly what a blue spot centipede is, he might have an idea of where to find it. Despite his death by snake bite, Spicy Fabry was exceptionally knowledgeable about venomous creatures. Out of the estimated 8.7 million species, about 20,000 are known to be venomous, and he had knowledge of each one. Centipedes were no exception. With expertise in venomous animals, Spicy Fabry was like a walking encyclopedia. The boy recalled his extensive knowledge about centipedes, as if flipping through a mental book. In his mind, he scanned through the information and soon found what he was looking for. Back in reality, he told the elders he might know where to find the creature. The men were surprised and eager to know where. The boy asked about the areas they had already searched. They had looked north and east of the academy, mostly during the day, focusing on the riverside to the north. He wasn't surprised they hadn't found it. He explained, "Of course you couldn't find it." The elder was curious about what he meant by "of course." They urged him to explain. Centipedes, being part of the Arthropoda phylum and Chilopoda class, have a wide range and, being cold-blooded, require shelter to regulate their temperature and humidity. Another interesting fact is that, unlike most insects with a waterproof layer, centipedes have weak waterproofing and pores on their shells. So they don't actually prefer wet places. They need high humidity but dislike being overly wet, yet they can't survive long without water. Thus, the blue spot centipede is unlikely to be found in jungles or by the river. The elders were surprised, as they thought centipedes preferred places like rotten wood cracks. The boy explained that while small ones might be found there, they were searching for a big one. Large centipedes can't stay in jungles or near river rocks because they wouldn't be able to hide. The elders exchanged glances, nodding in silent agreement. They asked where they could find the centipede, promising the boy a big reward if they succeeded. The boy smiled. He pointed west, suggesting they search the Rocky Mountains in that direction. Centipedes enjoy resting under warm rocks during the day and come out at night. A few hours later, they were at the Rocky Mountains, searching thoroughly. The patriarch stood atop a tall, narrow rock, watching closely. One man approached him, suggesting the young warrior might be mistaken. He decided it was time to call it a day. He ordered the signal arrow to be fired, gathering the search team. As the arrow flew, the men gathered around a bonfire. Though exhausted, they still hoped the young warrior was right. They wondered why the centipede remained elusive but believed in the boy's intelligence. The patriarch remained silent. Eventually, with a pained expression, he spoke of his daughter, Hueyun, considered the most exceptional talent in the Tang family's history. He questioned if the heavens had abandoned her. Suddenly, someone announced the Grand Patriarch's return. The Patriarch welcomed him back, and they gathered around the bonfire. The Grand Patriarch asked if he had also failed to find the centipede. The Patriarch confirmed that he too had failed. He asked if the Grand Patriarch had the same outcome, and the Grand Patriarch nodded. Hueyun had, at most, 3 months left. He doubted they could find the centipede in just 10 days. Silence fell over the group. The Patriarch suggested exploring the south the next day since they hadn't found any traces there. The Grand Patriarch agreed, noting the lack of traces. This statement sparked a realization in the Patriarch. He laughed heartily, admitting he couldn't believe what he had overlooked. He declared that they were indeed in the right place. The Patriarch asked if the Grand Patriarch had noticed something. The Grand Patriarch replied no, but as the Patriarch mentioned, he hadn't sensed any presence or trace. The Patriarch was puzzled. The Grand Patriarch explained that the absence of traces suggested it was there. He asked the Patriarch if he had seen any signs in the past 3 days. The Patriarch admitted he hadn't seen any animals, droppings, or territorial markings. That was when the Patriarch understood. The Grand Patriarch clarified that it was exactly as it seemed. It was unusual not to find any animal traces on such a large mountain. The Patriarch considered the possibility of a territorial creature. The Grand Patriarch suspected that other animals had either fled or become prey to the centipede. He patted the Patriarch's shoulder, assuring him that the blue spot centipede was indeed there. They felt hopeful that they could save Hueyun. The Patriarch wore a sad yet hopeful expression of a father. Suddenly, they felt the ground tremble. Alertness spread through the group. Panic set in as cracks appeared in the ground. The area around the bonfire began to crumble. Unexpectedly, it rose from the earth. Confusion swept over them as they tried to understand what was happening. A limb emerged from the ground, soon followed by another. They pointed at the creature as it surfaced, fear gripping them. Even the Grand Patriarch was filled with unease. Several more limbs emerged. It was indeed the blue spot centipede, and it was massive. Back at the academy, the boy grumbled about the commotion. He wondered just how large the centipede was, given all the noise. He remarked on how he had merely suggested searching for it, yet they seemed to be turning the mountain upside down. He was fascinated by the idea of a centipede big enough to swallow him whole. Being a fan of poison Pokemon, he thought he'd really like to see it. Meanwhile, at the Rocky Mountain, things eventually calmed down. They had defeated the blue spot centipede, though not without injuries. They managed to retrieve the core, a small blue gem, kept safely in a wooden box. The men were moved to tears, relieved they could finally save Hueyun. The Patriarch instructed his father to go to Sichuan first to treat the injured warriors. The Grand Patriarch was puzzled. The Patriarch explained that while grudges are etched in blood, favors are etched in stone. This was their way of life. In short, they still had obligations to fulfill. The Grand Patriarch understood. He realized how he had almost made a mistake by focusing solely on Hueyun. He agreed that it was right to welcome the young warrior as a guest and give him what he desired. The Patriarch ordered the injured to receive care in the village while he visited the young warrior. He thought the young warrior might be curious about the news. Meanwhile, back at the academy, the boy was being affectionately surrounded by 3 small, yellow Pokemon-like creatures. The young warrior faced a new challenge. He had unexpectedly become the caretaker of 3 baby blue spot centipedes. They looked like tiny caterpillars. They were cute and endearing, especially in the way they nuzzled against his face. As he looked at the pot, he remembered something. When he had returned home, he cleaned the eggs and placed them on his nightstand. When he awoke, they had all hatched. One centipede lay contentedly on his head. He had sensed its presence but hadn't expected them to hatch so soon. He looked at the centipedes clinging to him and tried to gently remove them from his shoulders. But there was a problem. They wouldn't let go, seeing him as their parent. Here's a quick recap of what happened last night. The boy was incredibly curious about this new type of centipede, so large it could swallow him whole. He told himself that enduring this challenge proved he was still spicy Fabry, even in the lair of the blue spot centipede he discovered. Driven by curiosity, he searched for it and accidentally kicked an insect in frustration. His torch fell as he lost his balance, but he was relieved to see the 3 eggs he found were safe. Luckily, the rain had stopped, or he might not have been able to retrieve even one. Realizing he needed to act quickly, he stood up to head back and clean the eggs. He secured them at his waist and reassured them that he'd give them a proper bath soon. Back in the present, although he didn't see the living blue spot centipede, he was glad to have saved the remaining eggs. He asked the little centipedes to give him some space. He knew they wouldn't eat until after their first 2 molts, so feeding them wasn't a concern yet. Still, having them cling to him was a bit of a hassle. Then he got an idea. If he went into the water, maybe they'd let go. With a smirk, he decided to take a shower. The little centipedes probably didn't know what that meant, but one shivered in anticipation. A few hours later, the elder patriarch arrived at the academy. He approached the pavilion, knocked on the door, and asked if the young warrior was inside. There was no answer. He waited, then reached for the doorknob and decided to enter. Inside, he saw herbs, jars, and even some medicine, which led him to wonder if the young warrior was a healer. He realized how impolite it was to enter without permission. He decided to return later, but a rustling sound caught his attention. It was coming from one of the pots. Curious, he turned back and opened the pot. To his surprise, there was a spider inside. His curiosity piqued. He turned to the drawers and pulled one open, revealing a gecko. He glanced around and checked another pot, discovering beetles within. There were also some eggs and dried snakes. It was astounding. He couldn't believe that the young warrior was raising venomous animals and their offspring. Even their Tang clan, known for handling venomous creatures, had only managed to extract poison but hadn't figured out how to increase eggs this way. He realized that saving his daughter's life was due to a small stroke of luck, but the true fortune was meeting the young warrior. Just then, the young warrior appeared and greeted him, noticing the elder's bandaged arm and expressing concern. The elder assured him it was nothing serious. He began to tell the young warrior something important but stopped abruptly, sensing an ominous energy. Suddenly, there was an explosion at the entrance behind the boy. Slowly, a silhouette emerged, revealing itself as it stepped forward. It resembled an ogre with one eye and a burned left side of its face. The elder instinctively pushed the young warrior aside, urging him to run. The boy was startled and confused. The monster let out a loud roar, assuming an aggressive stance. It moved swiftly, attacking with its hand. The elder blocked the attack with his uninjured arm, enduring great pain. The monster then pushed him back, sending him flying. Dust filled the air, causing the elder to cough, and he spat blood. He realized the monster's strength was comparable to that of his father. The elder urged the young warrior to run, but as the smoke cleared, it revealed the young warrior being choked and lifted by the monster. The young warrior coughed as the monster laughed loudly. The monster taunted, saying he heard the Tang clan had come to Hainan. No one expected the son of the myriad poison's divine sovereign to be injured and alone. The elder responded that he didn't know who the monster was and asked why they were being targeted, including the young warrior. The monster asked if the elder couldn't recognize him by his face and fist, introducing himself as Blood Hand Rakasa Takanyang. He said the elder's father was responsible for his disfigurement. The elder recognized the name, recalling that Takanyang had been struck by a poison palm and fell off a cliff, yet he survived. The elder pleaded for the young warrior's release, offering his own life in exchange, but Ayang refused. He vowed to kill anyone associated with the Tang clan. Inwardly, the elder cursed the demon, a term for a powerful martial artist causing harm. Ayang showed no intention of sparing the young warrior. The boy's face turned pale from lack of air. Ayang laughed and declared he would die. The young warrior weakly begged for mercy, nearing his limit. Suddenly, 3 pairs of fierce eyes appeared. The little centipedes dashed onto Ayang's arm. It was their moment to shine. These small but fierce centipedes attacked and bit Ayang all over. Ayang was bewildered by the centipedes and dropped the young warrior. Furious, he shouted that even centipedes couldn't harm him. Suddenly, his neck turned violet and he coughed up blood, collapsing to the ground in agony. The young warrior was surprised and confused to see that Ayang had died. He moved away and asked the elder if Ayang was indeed a bad person. The elder, having witnessed everything, was astonished. His jaw dropped, but then he broke into a wide grin, realizing the young warrior was more than just a guest. The elder thought the young warrior should definitely become part of the Tang clan. A few days after Ayang's collapse, someone sighed. The young warrior was tending to the elder, placing a wet cloth on his forehead as he rested. The elder thanked him. The young warrior suggested that instead of thanking him, the elder could tell him where his companions were so he could check on them. However, he realized he couldn't leave the elder alone, and they couldn't call a doctor either. The elder reassured him not to worry, saying he would recover with a few days of rest. The boy was amazed at how calm the elder was after such a serious injury. He told the elder to stop being so nonchalant when he was in critical condition. The elder responded that he was fine because he was a martial artist. The young warrior was clueless and asked if martial artists were the kind who flew around and shot fireballs. The elder chuckled and explained that not everyone could do that, but it was one way to describe it. Spicy Fabry was amazed. It was yet another reminder that he truly was in a different world. Otherwise, a centipede as large as a house wouldn't make sense. The elder expressed that he owed his life to the young warrior who had saved him. Introducing himself formally despite his condition, he said he was Tang Kaolson of the Sichuan Tang clan. Finally, the young warrior introduced himself as well. His name was Y Soryang. Kaolson noted that So means small and Ryang means dragon. He thought it was a good name. Kaolson mentioned he had many questions he'd like to ask. Soryang encouraged him to go ahead. Kaolson asked if the centipedes on Soryang's body were venomous. Soryang gently rubbed one of the centipedes on its belly and confirmed, yes, since they are blue spot centipedes. This revelation made Kaolson sit up abruptly, astonished. He asked if Soryang had tamed them and how he managed to do it. Kaolson also mentioned that, while waiting, he noticed other venomous creatures and wondered if Soryang was raising those too. Soryang said it was a long story and asked if Kaolson was okay with hearing it. Kaolson assured him he didn't mind. Soryang began explaining, starting with the egg of the blue spot centipede. When he finished, Kaolson asked for confirmation that Soryang had raised it from an egg. Soryang nodded, saying he could roughly predict when it would hatch. To Kaolson, this was beyond comprehension. How did the boy manage such a feat? Soryang asked him to hold on for a moment. He went to one of the drawers, retrieved 2 lizards, and proudly showed them to Kaolson. The first lizard had a brown body with yellow stripes and white stripes on its tail, an ordinary striped lizard. Then there was another one. By breeding lizards with larger white stripes on their tails, he had produced one with a brown body and a white tail, no stripes. Kaolson asked if Soryang was saying he had bred that color. Soryang blushed and happily confirmed it, saying he thought it was pretty. Kaolson regained his composure and inquired if Soryang could pair ones with strong poison to create an even more venomous breed. Soryang responded with a huh. In his mind, he thought it was theoretically possible. He explained that if they knew which had the stronger poison, it could probably be done. He was still speaking when Kaolson exclaimed, "Really? That's possible?" Soryang was taken aback by the elder's intense reaction. Kaolson immediately urged him to join his family. Soryang was bewildered. Kaolson tempted him further, promising that if he joined, they would generously teach him all their martial arts, provide access to all sorts of elixirs, herbs, and any poisons he desired. Kaolson claimed that someone like Soryang could even capture or raise the legendary 10 great venomous creatures of the Central Plains martial world. As if that wasn't enough, Kaolson added, not to brag but to offer, the chance to meet one of the 3 flowers of the Central Plains, his daughter. Soryang exclaimed, "Hold on," and asked Kaolson to repeat what he had just said. Kaolson, amused, remarked that even though Soryang was young, he was still a man. He resumed talking about the flowers of the Central Plains, but Soryang interrupted, telling him to forget about that. Soryang wanted to know more about the 10 great venomous creatures of the Central Plains and asked if they were as amazing as the blue spot centipede. Kaolson assured him, of course. He explained that while the blue spot centipede was impressive, it was ranked lower compared to the 10 great venomous creatures. From giant scorpions to golden frogs that glitter like gold, whatever Soryang imagined, the reality was even more extraordinary. Kaolson smiled, seeing that he had successfully piqued Soryang's interest. Soryang looked excited, his eyes sparkling with curiosity. 2 days later, a Tang clan member was shocked to learn that Blood Hand Rakasa, Tak Iyang, had appeared. Kaolson explained that Iyang had been hiding and refining his martial arts, reaching a level close to his father's. The Tang clan members realized that if the patriarch had sent such a man to his death, he might have reached the realm of 10,000 poisons. They congratulated him. The patriarch corrected them, saying he hadn't achieved that. He revealed that it was the young warrior who had defeated Iyang. The Tang clan members were astonished. One member immediately clasped Soryang's hand, thanking him for saving the patriarch of the Sichuan Tang clan. They asked if he was an elder who had undergone rejuvenation. Soryang was puzzled. Seeing the confusion, the elder asked Soryang to demonstrate. The Tang clan members understood what was coming, and Soryang tapped his chest, calling out his little companions. The Tang clan members watched as Soryang's clothes rustled and 3 adorable centipedes peeked out, causing everyone to gasp. The little creatures crawled into view. Recognizing them as centipedes, the patriarch explained they were blue spot centipedes, and these small creatures had taken down Iyang. The clan members inquired about the poison. It was incredible that Soryang had managed to tame one. The patriarch explained that this was why they wanted to accept the young warrior as part of their clan. However, Soryang said he needed more time to think about it. A clan member told Soryang it was a great opportunity. The patriarch suggested they get moving, as he felt they shouldn't delay. Soryang asked if they were still searching for something. Kaelson paused before explaining that Blood Hand Rakasa, Tak Ayang, had practiced a martial art called the Blood Hand Poison Claw. It was a dark art requiring human blood and bone marrow to reach certain levels. Soryang found that quite unsettling. Kaelson continued, saying that if Ayang had left behind any secret scrolls or disciples, they needed to address it to prevent future threats and ensure such cruel martial arts never returned. Additionally, they needed to rescue anyone who might have been captured. The patriarch asked if Soryang would assist them, given his familiarity with Hainan Island's geography. Soryang looked thoughtful. He considered it. Joining the Tang clan meant a lifelong commitment. It's like checking the company culture and the boss's character during an internship. Soryang agreed to help once the patriarch recovered. They praised him for making the right decision. Soryang replied that helping meant saving lives, so of course he would assist. In his mind, he planned to use this opportunity to learn more about the Sichuan Tang clan. After all, skilled individuals often evaluate their potential employers. Kaelson needed 3 days to recover. They stopped by a village near the abandoned martial academy to locate the base of Blood Hand Rakasa, Tak Ayang. They inquired about any missing people. An old man mentioned that about 1 or 2 people go missing in the jungle each year, but there hadn't been any noticeable patterns of disappearance. Kaelson was deep in thought. They thanked the village chief for his help, and he humbly replied, "I am honored to assist the famous patriarch of the Sichuan Tang clan." They excused themselves, realizing they hadn't found any significant leads. As they walked through the forest, Soryang commented that there seemed to be nothing special about the village. Kaelson explained that when Ayang found them and revealed himself, it was near that area, but locating his base was proving difficult. Soryang also found it odd that there were no traces. He recalled what Ayang had said, which sparked a realization. He asked Kaelson if he remembered what Ayang said when he appeared. Kaelson admitted he didn't really recall, as he had been struck away by Ayang's attack at the time. Soryang reminded him that Ayang mentioned hearing that the Tang clan had come to Hainan, implying someone had informed him. Therefore, it was simple. They just needed to check the places the Tang clan had passed through in Hainan. Soryang suggested using Ayang's portrait to gather information. The others looked at Soryang in amazement. They found his insight remarkable. If Ayang had been informed by someone who saw the Tang clan, things would indeed be easier. They set off immediately and arrived at a village that seemed gloomy. A Tang clan member reported that, based on what he had heard at the port in Hainan, this village seemed to be the one. The elder noted that it was where the Halai people lived, hoping they wouldn't be hostile. The villagers appeared lifeless. The Tang clan called out to see if anyone was available, catching the attention of a villager. Upon seeing the Tang clan, the villagers asked what the Han people were doing there. An old man, possibly the village chief, approached them. The village chief held the hand of a little girl, flanked by 2 guards, all of whom looked unwell. Kaelson introduced himself. Soryang observed the interaction, noting how weak the child appeared and how lifeless the village seemed. An idea struck him. He noticed that other villagers looked droopy, as if they had taken some kind of medicine. The village chief assured them that no one was missing and nothing unusual was happening in their village. He urged them to leave. The elder began to comment on the disparity between the number of houses and people, but was interrupted by the village chief, who insisted there was nothing to concern themselves with. Once again, they were asked to go back. Kaelson and Soryang were taken aback. Kaelson whispered to Soryang, recalling his earlier comment that the Halai people were supposed to be friendly. Soryang had no response. He noticed the little girl again. She suddenly collapsed. Everyone was shocked. The village chief cradled her in his lap, tears welling up in his eyes. He pleaded with Majin not to leave him, as she was his only remaining relative. He couldn't bear to see her sick, too. Kaelson approached the village chief, offering his limited knowledge in medical arts. He sought permission to help. The village chief asked if it was Central Plains Medical Arts. Kaelson confirmed. Though not a physician, he had some medical knowledge and asked if he could examine the child. The village chief allowed him to proceed. The village chief then explained that a plague had been spreading through the village, causing children to die and healthy people to suffer. Kaelson promised to do his best to help. The village chief expressed his gratitude as they brought the girl inside. He scolded the guards for standing idly and instructed them to guide the physician and his party into the house. They hurried towards the house. Soryang asked a Tang clan member if the elder knew medical arts as well. The man confirmed. He explained that the Tang clan's martial arts involve dealing with poisons, making them proficient in medicine. Since martial arts begin with understanding one's body, some knowledge of medical arts is necessary. Soryang initially thought they were an assassin group that used poison. He considered that if he joined the Tang clan, it would be beneficial to learn medical arts instead of the frightening poison arts. The man added that they sometimes capture wicked individuals, inject them with poison, and observe the reactions. Soryang's expression was amusing as he interpreted this as human experimentation. The more he imagined it, the more uneasy he felt. The village streets were deserted. Inside one of the houses, someone sighed. Kaelson explained that he had transferred some of his energy to stabilize the girl's breathing. The village chief thanked him profusely, pleading for the life of his only granddaughter. Kaelson mentioned something odd about the child's pulse and asked if she had a weak heart from birth. The village chief explained that she had been sick for half a year. Besides his granddaughter, others in the village had also fallen ill with what they called a mysterious disease. This was why he had urged them to leave earlier. Kaelson offered to provide good medicine for the heart and asked for the villagers to be gathered so they could try it. The village chief was overcome with emotion, thanking him sincerely. Soryang observed Kaelson closely. Later that night, a Tang clan member walked with the patriarch, acknowledging his hard work tending to the patients. The patriarch thanked Gyupi. Pai inquired about the symptoms. Kaelson explained that the symptoms were quite unusual: lethargy, swelling in the eyes, light fever, and irregular pulses. Those with severe symptoms all had heart problems. Kaelson asked where Soryang was, and Pai replied that Soryang, likely exhausted from helping all day, had fallen asleep. He had left him in his room. Kaelson agreed, noting that Soryang had been following them without knowing any martial arts, which would naturally tire him out. Kaelson decided to check on him, and Pai offered to lead the way. They entered the room, finding Soryang sleeping soundly on the bed with his 3 centipedes resting in a basket. Kaelson peeked through the door. Noticing something, he immediately entered and raised his hand towards Soryang. His hand came down heavily, waking Soryang with a sting on his cheek. Kaelson was glaring at him. Soryang, confused by the sudden action, instinctively moved away, cradling his sore cheek. He gritted his teeth, growing angry, and demanded to know why Kaelson had done that, complaining about the pain. The elder apologized, explaining that there was a bug on Soryang's face and he had tried to catch it. Soryang found this hard to believe, but Kaelson asked him to listen. He explained that he had stopped by to check on Soryang before sleeping and had noticed a bug on his face. Given the many venomous insects in the area, Kaelson thought it was too dangerous to leave it there, so his hand acted on its own. He showed Soryang the bug, noting its size. Soryang was surprised to see it and then had a realization. He confirmed with Kaelson that although the patients exhibited various symptoms, they all had arrhythmia. Kaelson affirmed this. Soryang then identified the cause of the town's illness, pointing to the bug and saying it was the kissing bug, a species from the Reduviidae family. The kissing bug got its name because it often bites around the eye or lip area, sucking blood quietly, even more so than a mosquito. This is why they're also known as vampire or assassin bugs. While the bugs themselves aren't venomous, their stomachs are full of harmful parasites. When they bite, people can easily get infected through their excrement, leading to trypanosomiasis, also known as Chagas disease. This disease ranks 7th among the most deadly to humans. Soryang asked the village chief if the village dogs also showed symptoms similar to humans, like running out of breath easily. The village chief confirmed this and asked if the bug was responsible. Soryang affirmed it was. The chief asked if this meant they could save his granddaughter. Soryang said it was possible with the right medicine. Kaelson grinned. He asked Pai for his opinion, and Pai acknowledged the young warrior's true value. Soryang noticed their exchange and wondered what was going on. They reminded him that they were from the Sichuan Tang family. Soryang looked puzzled, and Kaelson repeated the statement. In his mind, Soryang wondered, so what? His expression was both annoyed and confused, which was amusing. Kaelson explained the concept of gu, described as venomous parasites or witchcraft, created by evil men in China. These men used the bugs to inflict pain or control others. Soryang found this incredible. Kaelson agreed, but noted that many martial artists had been killed by gu or forced to commit terrible acts, like harming their own families or becoming slaves to these evil men. This is why many have tirelessly sought an antidote to counteract goo. Kaelson explained that they were referring to cures that either expel the goo from the body or dissolve and kill them inside. Soryang started to understand. Kaelson then asked who might succeed in creating such a cure, and proudly declared that, of course, it was the great Sichuan Tang family. He assured them that if they had a remedy that could dissolve a fist-sized worm inside the body, a tiny bug wouldn't be a problem. He showed the curse melting orb, noting that even a small amount of the medicine should suffice. Soryang expressed his admiration, though he privately thought the name was quite fancy for an anti-parasitic drug. The Tang family assured the village chief that they could save his granddaughter. In the end, the villagers began to recover, starting with the chief's granddaughter. The chief was immensely relieved. The villagers' warm hospitality served as a delightful bonus. Their bright and cheerful demeanor affirmed the positive rumors about their personalities. Kaelson acknowledged that it would have been challenging without Soryang identifying the cause. He told everyone that the gratitude belonged to Soryang. The villagers thanked the young warrior, calling him their savior. Though the Tang family's medicine cured the villagers, Kaelson gave all the credit to Soryang. Seeing Soryang receive the thanks warmed Kaelson's heart, as if he were being thanked himself. Soryang was moved by this. The villagers celebrated, tossing Soryang into the air repeatedly. Later, the village chief whispered to Kaelson about their earlier conversation at the village entrance. Kaelson asked what it was about. The chief referred to the villagers with missing people. Kaelson remembered and asked for details. The old man, wishing to repay their kindness, shared a strange story he heard. Among the village women, one was from another village and told him about a tragedy a few years back where people disappeared. They believed they had found a lead. Kaelson asked the location of the village. The chief said it was a small village to the west. Upon arrival, they were greeted by the stench of corpses. They knew they were in the right place. Kaelson observed the scene. Corpses, trash, and bugs littered the area, with poison lingering in the air. Pai warned Soryang not to look due to the gruesomeness, but Soryang had already seen it all. A man pointed out something unusual, a gold chicken foot. It was pecking at the corpse of a snake. Just kidding, it was a mysterious bird. The bird had a golden tail, and its body was a mix of purple, pink, and black. It looked almost magical. One person couldn't bear to see the bird dishonoring the dead any longer and picked up a rock to throw at it. Kaelson tried to stop him, but it was too late. The rock missed, but they caught the bird's attention. The man was furious, but Kaelson placed a hand on his shoulder, cautioning him that something felt off. The bird spread its wings, releasing a miasma into the air. Soryang was taken aback as he watched the miasma melt the skeletons. Someone grabbed Soryang by the mouth to protect him. Kaelson quickly ordered everyone to run while covering Soryang's mouth and nose. He explained that the creature was a jianiao, which means poison-feathered bird. After escaping to safety, the group gathered around Kaelson. He described the bird, noting its 5-foot wingspan. Its beak was sharp and bronze-colored, and its body was covered in purple feathers. When it spread its wings in anger, everything around it turned black and died, poisoned by its presence. It had a golden crown on its head, giving it a truly regal appearance. Kaelson identified it as a Gen or Jianiao. Soryang's eyes lit up with enthusiasm as he asked if it was one of the 10 great venomous creatures. Kaelson confirmed it was. He explained that the Jianiao occupied the top position among the great venomous creatures, known as the king of all venom. Soryang was thrilled. In his mind, even the venomous insects and snakes of Earth seemed tame compared to this creature. He marveled at how biochemical weapons seemed to roam freely in his current world. Kaelson mentioned that the Jianiao seemed to have been drawn there by snakes carrying venom. It said that the Jianiao only eats the heads of venomous snakes. Soryang asked if it was common. Kaelson replied that it was not common at all and quite rare, so rare that one might only catch a glimpse of it once in 100 years. Soryang was amazed, prompting Kaelson to ask why he was so interested. Soryang asked if it was possible to catch the Jianiao, which left the Tang members astonished. Kaelson, amused, asked if Soryang truly wanted to attempt capturing it. Soryang replied yes, but expressed concern about the venom. Kaelson smiled, recognizing Soryang's keen interest in the 10 great venomous creatures. If that was the case, Kaelson explained there was a way. Soryang was surprised to hear this. Kaelson informed him that by mastering the Tang clan's poison techniques, he would become immune to all poisons, including the venom of the Jianiao. With their clan's martial arts, he could block any poison in the world. Kaelson cunningly added that they don't teach their clan's techniques to outsiders, and even as patriarch, he couldn't break this rule. Soryang eagerly asked if joining the family would allow him to learn these techniques. He also asked if becoming immune to poison would truly enable him to withstand the Jianiao's venom. Kaelson reassured him. Of course, he promised that if Soryang agreed now, he would teach him everything and take care of his talents. He warned that if Soryang took too long to decide, he might hesitate as well. Feeling the pressure, Soryang announced his decision to join the clan. He expressed eagerness for Kaelson's guidance and began addressing him as patriarch instead of elder. The clever man had a playful smile and acted like he hadn't coaxed Soryang into agreeing. Kaelson told Soryang that from now on, he's part of their family. Back at the old place, signs of Bloodhand Rakshasa Takun Yang showed up in a cave. There were footprints too. They called the leader and gave him a notebook found in the cave. Kaelson looked through it and confirmed it was the secret technique of the Bloodhand Poison Claw. Soryang felt uneasy because it was written in blood. Kaelson decided to leave. Soryang asked if they were heading to Sichuan. Kaelson said it was the best choice since they had the blue spot centipede's core and the manual. Soryang asked if they could stop by the academy to free his friends. Kaelson agreed since Soryang also needed to gather his belongings. They set off, but when Soryang looked back, he noticed something. He pointed out that there was something over there. They checked it and saw a shiny purple feather from the Jianiao. They all stared at it, thinking. Kaelson picked it up and told Soryang he'd keep it as a gift for joining their family. Soryang seemed very interested in it and thanked him. Kaelson replied that everything was fine except for how Soryang addressed him. He suggested changing the title after the ceremony. Soryang wondered if it was like an initiation ceremony. Meanwhile, at the Tang clan, the Grand Patriarch Tang Musong, who had left earlier, finally arrived. He was tired but didn't rest. Instead, he asked about Huayin. The Tang members helped him inside quickly. They told him she was still holding on. The door opened. He immediately called out to Huayin. The people inside were surprised to see him. He told his daughter-in-law that he had the medicine now. He took out the core of the blue spot centipede. Seeing his success made the daughter-in-law cry. They got ready to give the medicine to her. Musong felt sad seeing her in pain. It was a close call and he was glad he rushed back. The daughter-in-law urged him to give the medicine right away. Musong helped his granddaughter take it. A blue glow surrounded her. Musong checked her pulse with his finger. They all hoped she would open her eyes. They watched her waiting. Meanwhile, Soryang felt tired. He had heard the Central Plains were vast but didn't expect them to be this big. From Hainan, they took a boat to Hangzhou. Then they passed through Nanjing after a journey lasting over a month and a half. Finally, they arrived in Sichuan. At the Sichuan Tang clan's residence, Pai happily told Soryang they were at the Sichuan Tang clan. Soryang's mouth dropped open. They stood at the entrance. They told him the entire mountain belonged to the Sichuan Tang clan. That's why it's called Tang Clan Mountain. Soryang swallowed hard, taking it all in. The Tang clan members came out to welcome the patriarch. Soryang was surprised by how many there were. He wondered if all these people were from the Sichuan Tang clan. Among them, a girl in a red dress rushed towards them. She called out to her father. It was Huayin. Tears flowed down her face as she was just happy to see her father again. Meanwhile, Soryang was captivated. Kaelson was relieved to see his daughter alive. She hugged him tightly, apologizing. Soryang couldn't believe her beauty. He had a fling with a celebrity before, but had never seen someone with such a bright aura. Kaelson told Soryang he had someone he wanted to introduce to him. Kaelson introduced his daughter, Huayin, to Soryang. Soryang was stunned. He asked if this was what Kaelson had mentioned before. Soryang said something about weeds or grass reminded Kaelson of a flower. Huayin blushed. Kaelson told Soryang that the girl next to him was the flower he had dismissed. Soryang was at a loss for words. He remembered their talk about the flower and felt embarrassed. At that moment, he realized he had made a mistake. He never thought he missed the chance to have such a beautiful partner. The only daughter of the Sichuan Tang clan was also known as the venomous flower, Tang Huayin. She carried a hidden emotional burden from a young age. She overheard some old men discussing her talents. They doubted her skills, but her beauty was remarkable enough to be one of the 3 flowers of the Murim. They talked about finding her a suitable son-in-law. One of the old men mentioned he suggested the patriarch take a second wife, but the patriarch refused, which puzzled him. When Huayin heard this, she knew her parents were right. She wanted to prove herself to the clan elders by excelling in martial arts. She wanted to show she could contribute to the family even if she wasn't a man. But rushing things led to mistakes. If someone is impatient, they can lose their way. That impatience caused a heart demon, leading to a key deviation. Then Huiyin woke up. At that time, the Grand Patriarch, her mother, and 2 others were by her bedside. Her mother looked relieved that she was safe. Tears fell from Huiyin's eyes. She cried and apologized to her mother. She wanted to be useful to the clan, but she had lost all her inner ki. Her grandfather called her a brat and asked if she was doing this because she felt guilty for making her father and grandfather worry. He mentioned how she had reached the level of 100 poisons that she wanted so much. He told her to stop crying and cheer up. She got confused when he mentioned 100 poisons. She looked at her aura, which was glowing, and asked her grandfather about it. The Grand Patriarch told her he had a story to share. It was about a mysterious young warrior who not only saved her life, but also gave her the inner kai of 1,000 poisons, not just 100. In the present, Huiyin asked about the weed. Soryang had no reply. Again, he felt embarrassed for calling Kailson's daughter a weed because he was so caught up in the story of the 10 great venomous creatures. He told himself to reflect on this. He tried to brush it off, saying the patriarch took the joke too far. He told her it was nice to meet her. It was amusing how the clan members smiled as they watched the 2 young adults meet. Soryang introduced himself and said he knew she had been sick, so he was happy to see her healthy now. Huiyin told him it was nice to meet him too. She introduced herself as Huiyin, also known as the Venomous Flower, and thanked him for saving her life, promising to never forget his kindness. Soryang was captivated by her beauty. Kailson asked Soryang what he thought. Soryang was surprised when he heard a voice in his head, assuming it was some kind of sound transmission. Kailson asked if Soryang agreed that his daughter was beautiful, and if he wanted to get to know her better. A little while later, Soryang relaxed in a large bath. The centipedes were peacefully resting in a basket. Soryang felt exhausted and thought he might collapse. He looked worn out. Then he noticed something. He smiled at the centipedes. One centipede woke up and smiled at him. Normally, the centipedes wouldn't fall off, but when he told them hot water was bad for them and suggested they stay in the bucket, they went in as if they understood. He found it mysterious. It seemed like they could understand him. Kailson mentioned that they react to killing intent. 2 centipedes were now awake and watching him. He joked that he felt embarrassed with them staring at his naked body. The 2 centipedes then hid inside the bucket, which amused Soryang. He remembered Pai saying the centipedes were spiritual creatures. He made a mental note to find out more about spiritual creatures later. He pondered it. He couldn't calm down after what Kailson said. He knew he had to leave soon. At another pavilion, the family gathered around the table. The Grand Patriarch, his wife, and daughter were there. Kailson announced he'd give the East Wing room to the young warrior. This room was part of a traditional Chinese residence for couples. The Grand Patriarch asked if the young warrior was truly that talented. The Patriarch confirmed, saying they thought they met by chance, but it was the person, not the encounter, that was special. He explained that the warrior's knowledge of venomous creatures was extraordinary, and he had even killed Ayang. Additionally, he had encountered legendary spiritual creatures like the poison-feathered bird and had hatched the blue spot centipede eggs himself. The Grand Patriarch noted that the Patriarch had found a treasure. Their attention turned to Huiyin. Kailson told his daughter he wanted the young warrior as his son-in-law and asked for her thoughts. Huiyin considered what that meant. Then she understood and fell silent. She wanted to prove she could be even more helpful to their clan now that she had the 1,000 poisons constitution. She replied that she was a member of the Tang clan and understood what her father was saying. But she told him that whether the young warrior deserved her was something she needed to find out for herself. Then she ran out of the room, making it an awkward moment. In Kailson's mind, the young warrior should be cautious. As beautiful as his daughter is, she also has sharp thorns. Huiyin ran quickly. She felt hurt. Now that she had the 1,000 poison constitution, if she stopped there, the elders would never recognize her. She decided to thoroughly evaluate what kind of person the young warrior was, from his qualifications to his personality. Meanwhile, Soryang was thinking about what he should do. He knew she might hold a grudge against him. He asked his kids, the centipedes, for advice. Suddenly, Huiyin appeared, shocking him. She looked stunning. She asked him to excuse her for a moment. She was in a hurry and asked for his hand. He gave it to her like a dog giving a paw to its owner. Then he blushed. He said he didn't know why she was in a hurry, but suggested doing such things after getting to know each other better. He shyly mentioned there's an order to such things. Huiyin asked what he was talking about. Then she realized, and her face turned red like a tomato as she corrected him, saying that wasn't her intention. Soryang felt cold and disappointed upon realizing it wasn't what he thought. There was an awkward silence. Huiyin sighed. She clarified again that it wasn't what he thought. She just wanted to check his pulse. She guessed that he misunderstood because of her sudden request. Soryang felt embarrassed. She sat beside him, apologizing for appearing suddenly and acting rudely. She told him that he's young and not yet of age, but he seemed thoughtful, so she planned to explain what was going on. She started explaining, and Soryang listened closely. From what he heard, it felt like a medieval drama. As the only direct descendant, Huiyan constantly dealt with the schemes of the branch families. To ensure the family line continued, the elders planned to find a capable son-in-law. They even considered how Soryang's status might change if he joined the family. Huiyan apologized in advance, as there was something she needed to confirm. She told him that even if things didn't go well, she had no intention of treating him poorly. She acknowledged him as her benefactor and wanted to treat him as a guest or like sworn siblings. Soryang extended his hand. He told her he understood, so she was free to confirm whatever she needed. She observed him. She took his hand and placed her fingers on his pulse. A blue aura began to surround her. She explained that the Tang clan's martial arts weren't something just anyone could learn. Some people could accept toxins into their bodies and master the techniques, while others couldn't. That's why their poison techniques required gradually adapting to poisons as internal energy grew. Only by accepting them all could one achieve mastery. The poisons had tiers. It started with 5 poisons, then 10, 100, 1,000, and finally 10,000 poisons. Fortunately, Soryang's body was capable of learning the poison techniques, but it was only at the 10 poisons level. This meant his body could handle only 10 types of toxins. Having a 10 poison body was impressive, especially for someone not born into the Tang clan. Soryang was shocked. Huiyan continued to explain that in terms of skill, it would place him at the level of a first-rate martial artist, the highest level someone without innate talent could achieve. She decided to take her leave. He saw her off. Soryang thought about having a 10 poison body. He turned pale, realizing it might mean he couldn't catch the Jianiao. For Soryang, this was a serious matter. A few hours later, someone stepped out of the bath. It was Huiyan, and it was quite a sight. She noticed that ever since she took the blue spot centipede's inner core, her body emitted a strange scent, even though she bathed several times a day. As she got dressed, she wondered if it was some kind of punishment for speaking ungratefully to the one who saved her life. Meanwhile, Soryang was deep asleep. In his dreams, he talked to someone who thanked him for his kindness. It was Huiyan. He asked if he was dreaming. Huiyan answered that it might feel like a dream, but it wasn't. This Huiyan explained she borrowed the appearance of the girl who consumed her inner core to avoid startling him. She introduced herself as the mother of all those creatures, the blue spot centipede. Soryang struggled to understand. 3 little girls approached him. He figured they were her babies. He asked how she appeared in his dreams. She explained that she was killed without mercy, leaving her children behind, and her grudge reached the heavens, causing her spirit to linger in the inner core. She added that while cursing from within the body of the girl who consumed her core, a chance to resolve her grudge arose, allowing her to appear in his dreams. It was because he brought all her children with him. Soryang realized he had unintentionally been part of the blue spot centipede's demise. He didn't mean to, but he felt involved in her death. He watched her. She asked if he could fulfill one request for her. He agreed and promised to do whatever she asked. She requested that he take care of her children until they were fully grown. Soryang was puzzled since centipedes are supposed to become independent after molting twice from their mother's body. The mother centipede explained that her offspring remained dependent on the Kai from her inner core until they shed their shells twice. Afterward, they needed the true Kai of other beings to grow. Soryang asked if this meant the babies needed to stay with Huiyan since she consumed the inner core. The mother centipede informed him of the circumstances. She revealed that she had cursed the girl so her body emitted a foul odor, ensuring no man would approach her and preventing her from having children. In exchange for lifting the curse, the mother centipede proposed that her children absorb the Kai from Huiyan's inner core. She hinted that Soryang might also win Huiyan's heart this way. Soryang thought about it, then smiled and replied that it didn't feel right to him. He didn't want to take advantage of Huiyan's challenging situation. The mother centipede admired his honor and asked how he planned to tackle the challenge. She noted that Huiyan was looking for a strong man and that she couldn't provide the inner core of the 10 great venomous creatures for him. This gave Soryang an idea. He asked the centipede to trust him. He assured her that he would handle it and things would work out. The next day, Soryang and Huiyan sat side by side. Huiyan now understood that the smell from her body was due to the blue spot centipede's inner core. Soryang confirmed this and explained that if she attached the centipedes to her body every few days to let them absorb the Kai, the smell would naturally fade. Huiyan hesitated but asked if it was okay for him to help her without expecting anything in return. She knew he could easily ask for compensation. Soryang smiled and said he couldn't bring himself to exploit a woman's difficult situation. He refused to be that shameless. Huiyan was surprised by his response. She felt guilty and said she wouldn't continue accepting his kindness without offering something in return. She began to take her father's words seriously. Seeing Soryang, she realized there were things more valuable than talent or martial prowess. Soryang mentioned he had been thinking too. He recalled when she said he had 10 poison bodies and could absorb only 10 types of toxins. Soryang had an idea idea if he could only take in 10 types of toxins, he should aim to fill those slots with the toxins of the 10 most venomous creatures of the Central Plains. Huion was surprised by his ambition. Huion interpreted Soryang's ambition as a desire to become the strongest under the heavens for her sake, which made her blush. For Tang Huion, known as one of the 3 flowers of Murim and the venomous flower, this was the first time a man had made such a bold gesture toward her. Blushing, she asked Soryang if he realized what he had implied. Soryang replied that he didn't. Huion explained that the path he was considering would be incredibly tough and challenging. It might take 10 years, 20 years, or even a lifetime to achieve such a feat. Soryang's expression turned grim as he wondered if it would indeed take that long, while Huion's cheeks remained flushed. Huion mentioned that Soryang was 15 years old, and in 3 years, when he came of age and was ready to marry, if he managed to succeed in dealing with even one of the 10 great venomous creatures by then, she would be impressed. She shyly suggested that if he succeeded, there might be a possibility of a wedding. She then cheered him on and, embarrassed, dashed away. Soryang was puzzled and called out to her. She turned back and asked if he had something more to say. He suggested she get treated and stay for a couple more hours. Embarrassed, she returned. He reassured her that there was nothing to worry about since the little centipedes wouldn't bite. He gathered his centipedes and told them to go to their mom instead of their dad. Hearing that made Huion blush even more. She questioned the use of dad and mom, but Soryang quickly clarified that it wasn't what he meant. Meanwhile, Kaolson, his wife, and Museong were gathered at the table. They discussed how the extraordinary talent of the young warrior seemed not to have won Huion's heart yet. Museong asked if they had seen them that morning, noting that it seemed like something was happening between the two. Huion's mother remarked that it appeared Huion had turned Soryang down. The men pondered this. Museong stated that forcing a marriage wasn't the right approach, and that it would be better for them to develop feelings naturally. Huion's mother suggested that Huion take charge of the young warrior's martial arts training so they could spend more time together and grow closer. Chiolson thought it was a good idea. Museong mentioned that they should see if the elder healer sage could grant the purifying elixir of marrow and essence. If the young warrior's aptitude was low, the elixir could enhance it. Chiolson was surprised by this suggestion, noting that it hadn't been possible for Huion, so they shouldn't get their hopes up. Museong agreed. At that moment, Huion was outside the door. She announced herself to her father. Chiolson asked what brought her by at that hour. He invited her in. She blushed, not expecting to see all 3 of them there. She came with something to say, blushing again. In one burst, she declared that she would do as her father suggested. Chiolson was taken aback and asked what she meant. Huion's mother invited her to sit and gently inquired if she meant that the young warrior had caught her interest. Embarrassed, Huion struggled to speak. Chiolson was curious about the sudden change, especially when they thought she wasn't interested before. She began talking about the young warrior, explaining that Soryang had promised to become the greatest in the world for her. He had made such a promise to her. Chiolson was intrigued. Encouraging her to continue, he listened as she explained that Soryang, despite his innate talent being at the level of 10 poisons, vowed to overcome this by defeating the 10 great venomous creatures for her sake. Museong found this amusing. Chiolson was surprised and Museong laughed, commenting on Soryang's courage. Huion's mother was impressed. Finding a suitor like that was rare. She explained that although her heart was willing, she had told Soryang she would only agree to marriage if he could capture one of the 10 great venomous creatures before he came of age. She wondered if he understood her response. Her father joked that she should have set the bar at capturing at least 3 creatures. Her mother commented that men aren't always the sharpest when it comes to such hints. Huion asked if she should go clarify it to Soryang. Her mother advised against it, saying that if Soryang doesn't realize they've already given their approval, he'll just work harder. Museong suggested treating him as a prospective son-in-law while acting as though they're still undecided. They expected that with all his efforts, he would naturally become part of the family. Meanwhile, the mother centipede praised Soryang for impressively winning over Huion's heart. He replied that it was all about having guts and perseverance. She smiled warmly at him, calling him her benefactor and informing him that it would likely be her last act. Her resentment had been resolved, and her soul would soon ascend to the afterlife. She offered to do anything possible for him before she left. Soryang thought for a moment and asked if he could see her true form. She felt shy but recognized it as a reasonable request, thinking he might have a weakness for lust. She revealed her shoulder and was about to strip. Soryang quickly asked if she really needed to take it off, which made her blush even more. She asked if she should refrain. Soryang clarified that wasn't what he meant. The children amusingly covered their eyes. He explained he wanted to see the appearance of a blue spot centipede. Realizing her misunderstanding, she felt horrified. Smoke enveloped the area, and then she revealed her true form. Soryang gasped at the sight, excited and happy happy to see her in her natural state. He was amazed by her size. He asked if he could touch her, already doing so as he marveled at her waterproof body and imagined her movements. He inquired about her legs, venom strength, eyes, and antennae, all while eagerly examining her. Soryang was so passionate about examining the centipede that the children, still covering their eyes, looked really cute. He was so enthusiastic that he even wanted to touch her fangs. She warned him it was dangerous, but he insisted. This made the blue spot centipede a bit worried. She started to wonder if her daughters would be okay with this man, as she sensed his touch was anything but ordinary. It was both funny and odd how Soryang drooled as he caressed her.